Paper rank earns paper respect, Lieutenant. On your knees. Prove you belong. The dining facility goes silent. 40 Navy SEALs freeze mid-bite, heads turning toward the confrontation unfolding near the center tables. Lieutenant Jade Monroe stands motionless, tray balanced in both hands, eyes fixed on Commander Rick Dalton's polished boots. The fluorescent lights hum overhead, casting harsh shadows across her impassive face. She's 28, brown-skinned, regulation haircut, a small scar visible along her jawline. Everything about her screams administrative officer, pressed uniform, minimal decoration, the kind of lieutenant who pushes paperwork while others push limits. Dalton leans back in his chair, arms crossed, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. He's 42, barrel-chested, gray stubble lining his jaw, the kind of commander who owns every room he enters. Around him, his team watches with varying degrees of amusement and discomfort. This isn't the first time Dalton has made an example of someone. It won't be the last. Jade sets her tray down on the nearest table. The movement is controlled, deliberate. Her index finger extends naturally along the edge of the plastic surface, not gripping, but guiding. It's a small detail, barely noticeable. But in the far corner of the room, Senior Chief Nate Garrett notices. He's 53, weathered face, eyes that have seen 3 decades of naval operations. He nudges the man beside him, whispers something lost in the renewed chatter of forks against plates. Jade kneels. No hesitation, no verbal protest. She pulls a napkin from her pocket and begins wiping dust from Dalton's right boot. The room erupts in scattered laughter, some nervous, some genuinely entertained. Dalton's grin widens. He shifts his foot slightly, forcing her to adjust her position. "That's more like it," he says, loud enough for the entire hall to hear. "Maybe now you'll understand how things work around here. We don't need administrators, we need operators." Jade continues her work in silence, but her breathing follows a distinct pattern. 4 seconds in through the nose, 4 seconds held, 4 seconds out. The rhythm is so subtle that most wouldn't catch it. Garrett catches it. His brow furrows. He's seen that breathing technique before, but not from paper pushers, not from officers who spend their days managing supply requisitions and personnel files. When she finishes, Jade stands, folds the napkin, and places it carefully in the trash receptacle near the wall. She retrieves her tray, selects an empty table in the back corner, and sits down to eat as if nothing happened. Her hands are steady. Her expression reveals nothing. Around her, conversation gradually resumes, though eyes continue to flicker in her direction. Was she right to stay silent, or should she have fought back immediately? Drop your take below, and if you want justice served, hit that subscribe button. Garrett waits until the crowd thins before approaching her table. He doesn't sit, just stands there holding his coffee, studying her face. "You prior service?" he asks quietly. Jade glances up, chews slowly, swallows. "Admin track, Senior Chief. 3 years at Boopers." "That right?" It's not a question. Garrett's tone suggests he doesn't entirely believe her. "You know the range cold protocol? Weapon condition 4, chamber and magazine clear, bolt forward, safety on. Rangemaster calls cold before anyone crosses the line." The answer comes instantly. No hesitation, no need to think. Garrett nods slowly. "Good to know," he says, then walks away. Jade returns to her meal, but her eyes follow him across the room. For just a moment, the mask slips. There's calculation there, assessment, the look of someone measuring distances and exits. Then it's gone, replaced by the bland neutrality expected of junior officers trying to survive their first assignment at a SEAL training facility. The rest of dinner passes without incident. Jade finishes, busses her tray, and exits into the warm evening air. The base is winding down for the night, lights coming on across the sprawling compound. She walks toward the administrative building, hands in pockets, posture relaxed. But her path takes her past the obstacle course, past the firing range, past the motor pool she's memorizing, routes, structures, personnel patterns. Her eyes never stop moving. Inside her temporary quarters, a small room in the transient barracks, she sits on the edge of the bed and carefully peels back the medical tape wrapped around her left wrist. Beneath it, a compression bandage. Beneath that, the edge of something dark. She presses the tape back down, then lies back fully clothed, staring at the ceiling. Sleep comes quickly, the kind of practiced rest that doesn't require comfort, only discipline. Morning arrives at 05:30. Jade is already awake, already dressed, already running the perimeter of the base when most of the compound is still dark. She passes groups of SEALs doing their own PT, receives a few curious glances, ignores them all. Her pace is steady, controlled, not trying to impress anyone. At the 6-mile mark, she stops at a water fountain near the training complex. Captain Elias Ward is there, filling his bottle, and when she approaches, she comes to a crisp stop, stands at attention. Ward is 38, lean, wearing the subdued insignia of an intelligence officer. His eyes are sharp, constantly evaluating. He glances at her, takes in the admin rank on her collar, the lack of warfare pins, the regulation everything. "At ease, Lieutenant," he says. "You always run that early?" "Yes, sir. Habit." "Good habit." He caps his bottle but doesn't leave. "You settling in okay? I heard there was an incident at dinner." "No incident, sir. Just orientation." Ward's expression doesn't change, but something in his posture shifts. He's reading her the same way Garrett did, trying to reconcile what he's seeing with what he expects. "Right," he says slowly. "Well, if you need anything, my office is in Building 7, open door policy." "Appreciated, sir." He leaves. Jade waits until he's out of sight, then continues her run. But the encounter sticks with her. Ward is intelligence. Intelligence officers notice things. She'll need to be more careful. The day unfolds in a series of administrative tedium. Jade reports to her assigned office, a cramped space she shares with 2 other junior officers who treat her with polite indifference. Her duties involve processing training records, updating personnel files, coordinating equipment requisitions. It's mind-numbing work, exactly what everyone expects from a paper lieutenant. She performs it flawlessly. At 1100 hours, her phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. She opens it, sees a photo. Herself, kneeling, wiping Dalton's boot. The caption reads, "When admin tries to play soldier." It's been sent to the base group chat, visible to over 200 personnel. Within minutes, her phone explodes with notifications. Laughter emojis, mocking comments, a few half-hearted defenses that get shouted down. Jade reads through them all without expression, then mutes the chat and returns to work. Across the office, one of her coworkers glances at his own phone, snickers, looks at her. She meets his eyes. He looks away first. Lunch is a different experience. When Jade enters the DFS, conversations drop by several decibels. She takes her place in line, receives her food, turns to find a seat. Every table she approaches suddenly has no room, people shifting to close gaps, avoiding eye contact. She ends up eating standing near the trash receptacles, tray balanced on a narrow ledge. Dalton walks past at one point, doesn't acknowledge her existence. His team follows, several of them grinning. The afternoon brings her first official duty beyond paperwork. She's assigned to inventory the equipment storage facility, a massive warehouse filled with training gear, safety equipment, ropes, harnesses, climbing apparatus. It's supposed to take 2 days. Jade completes it in 4 hours, her counts precise, her organization immaculate. The supply sergeant is impressed despite himself. "You've done this before," he observes. "Standard procedure, Sergeant, just following the checklist." "Yeah, but most officers can't tell a carabiner from a quick link." Jade shrugs. "I read the manual." It's a lie. She knows this equipment the way a surgeon knows their instruments, by touch, by weight, by the specific click of mechanisms engaging. But she doesn't demonstrate that knowledge. She just follows the checklist, exactly as expected. At 1600 hours, she's summoned to the obstacle course. Dalton is there with his team, running drills. He spots her approaching and raises a hand, stopping the exercise. "Lieutenant Monroe," he calls out. "Perfect timing. We need someone to test the rope climb. Safety protocol requires an officer sign-off before we can use it for tomorrow's evaluation." It's not standard protocol. Jade knows this, but she also knows that refusing will give Dalton more ammunition. She approaches the base of the 40-foot tower, examines the rope. Something's wrong. The anchor point shows fresh scratches, and the rope itself has an almost imperceptible twist 3/4 of the way up, a kink that could cause catastrophic failure under full body weight. "Problem, Lieutenant?" Dalton's voice carries amusement. Jade walks around the tower, checking the secondary ropes, the safety nets, the crash pads. All of them are positioned slightly off-center, not enough to be obvious, but enough to be useless if someone falls. This isn't negligence. This is sabotage. She returns to the primary rope, makes a show of tugging it, testing its strength at ground level. Then she looks directly at Dalton. "Rope's good, sir, but the anchor needs a safety inspection before anyone climbs. Regulation 3-7-2 requires engineering sign-off on any fixed training apparatus." Dalton's smile falters slightly. I'm the training officer, Lieutenant. I don't need a paper pusher telling me regulations. Not telling, sir. Just citing. If something happens and there's no engineering signature, the investigation traces back to whoever authorized the climb. The implication is clear. Dalton can push her all he wants, but if someone gets hurt, his career is over. He stares at her for a long moment, then waves a hand dismissively. Fine, we'll get engineering out here. Waste of time, but whatever makes you feel important. Jade nods, turns to leave. As she walks away, she hears one of Dalton's team members mutter, "Safety Sally strikes again." Laughter follows. She doesn't react. That evening, engineering does inspect the tower. They find the anchor insufficiently torqued and the rope improperly secured. The equipment is taken offline pending a full investigation. Jade isn't there to see it, but word spreads quickly. Opinions divide. Some see her as competent, covering liabilities. Others see her as paranoid, undermining training for no reason. Dalton's narrative, that she's a bureaucrat who doesn't understand operational realities, gains traction. By the time she returns to her quarters, the group chat has moved on from mocking her boot cleaning incident to speculating about her competence. Someone suggests she might have faked the safety concern to look useful. Someone else wonders if she's ever even been in the field. The consensus forms: she's an administrator out of her depth, trying to stay relevant by creating problems. Jade lies in bed, scrolling through the messages, her face illuminated by the pale glow of her phone screen. She reads every comment, catalogs every name. Then she sets the phone aside, adjusts the bandage on her wrist, and closes her eyes. Tomorrow will be worse. She's counting on it. The next morning begins with a formation. Mandatory attendance, full uniform. Jade stands in the back row, eyes forward, as the base commander delivers routine announcements, training schedules, safety reminders, and upcoming inspection. Then Dalton steps forward. "One more thing," he says, scanning the formation. "We've had some concerns raised about training equipment. Concerns that turned out to be unfounded. Engineering cleared the obstacle course tower. No issues. So for anyone who might have gotten the wrong impression yesterday, trust your training officers. We know what we're doing." It's a deliberate distortion. Engineering found multiple issues, but Dalton's framing suggests Jade overreacted, wasted everyone's time. She doesn't correct him, doesn't defend herself, just stands there absorbing the weight of 100 stares. After formation, Garrett intercepts her on the way to her office. "You did the right thing," he says quietly. "Those anchor bolts were loose. Could have killed someone." "I know, Senior Chief." "Then why aren't you speaking up? Dalton's making you look incompetent." Jade meets his eyes. "Maybe I am incompetent, Senior Chief. Maybe I'm just a paper pusher who got lucky." Garrett studies her face, trying to understand what he's looking at. Then he shakes his head. "No," he says softly. "You're something else. I just can't figure out what." He walks away, leaving Jade standing alone in the morning sun. She watches him go, then continues to her office, where another day of tedious paperwork awaits. But now there's an edge to the monotony. People are watching her differently, not just with contempt, but with suspicion. Dalton has successfully painted her as someone who creates problems where none exist. It's exactly what she needs. At 1300 hours, she receives a summons to Dalton's office. She arrives precisely on time, knocks, enters when told. Dalton sits behind his desk, arms crossed, expression severe. "Lieutenant Monroe," he begins, "I'm concerned about your adjustment here. You've been with us a week, and already there have been multiple issues. The equipment complaint, the social media incident, reports that you're not integrating well with your peers." "I wasn't aware integration was part of my job requirements, sir." "Don't be cute." His voice hardens. "This is a tight-knit community. We rely on each other. If you can't function as part of the team, I'll have to question whether you're fit for this assignment." Jade says nothing. Dalton leans forward. "I've reviewed your file. Bureau of Naval Personnel, administrative track, no deployments, no field experience. You know what that tells me? It tells me you're here because someone in Washington thinks we need more diversity in the command structure. Well, I don't care what they think. I care about mission effectiveness, and right now, you're a distraction." "Understood, sir." "Is it?" He opens a folder, slides a document across the desk. "This is a request for transfer. I'm recommending you be reassigned to a position more suited to your skill set, somewhere that doesn't require operational understanding." Jade picks up the document, scans it. It's professionally written, citing concerns about her inability to adapt to the training environment, her over-reliance on regulations, her lack of tactical experience. It's also completely within Dalton's authority to submit. She sets it down carefully. When does this go through, sir? Pending final approval, 30 days. Unless you'd like to resign now and save everyone the paperwork. I'll stay the 30 days, sir. Finish my assigned duties. Dalton's expression suggests he expected more resistance. Suit yourself. Dismissed. Jade leaves his office, walks directly to Building 7, and requests an appointment with Captain Ward. She's told he's unavailable, currently off base for a classified briefing, won't return until tomorrow evening. She thanks the admin clerk and leaves. Outside, the base continues its rhythm. SEALs running drills, helicopters landing and departing, the constant background noise of military efficiency. Jade walks to the motor pool, ostensibly to coordinate vehicle maintenance schedules. But really, she's mapping. Exit points, blind spots, places where security cameras don't quite reach. Her movements appear aimless, administrative, boring. They're anything but. That afternoon, she's assigned to observe a live fire exercise on the range. It's meant to be a passive duty. Stand at the observation point, confirm head count, ensure safety protocols are followed. Simple, until Dalton decides to make it complicated. "Lieutenant," he calls out as the exercise begins, "why don't you join us on the line? Get a feel for what we actually do here." It's a test. Jade has claimed she's pure admin, no field experience, yet she cited range protocols with suspicious accuracy the other night. If she refuses, she looks weak. If she accepts and handles a weapon competently, her cover story starts to crack. She walks to the firing line, accepts the rifle offered to her. M4 carbine, standard issue. She performs a brass check, chamber empty, then accepts a magazine, inserts it, chambers around, flips the safety on. The movements are mechanical, textbook, exactly what any officer should know. But they're also just slightly too smooth, the muscle memory of someone who's done this thousands of times. "Range is hot," the range master announces. "Fire when ready." Jade assumes a standing position, shoulders the weapon, breathes. 4 seconds in, 4 seconds hold, 4 seconds out. She acquires her target, a silhouette at 50 meters, and squeezes the trigger. The rifle bucks. The round impacts center mass. She fires again, same result. Again. 5 rounds, 5 hits, tight grouping. Behind her, Dalton watches with narrowed eyes. Not bad for someone who's never deployed. Jade safes the weapon, ejects the magazine, performs a brass check. "Basic marksmanship is part of officer training, sir. Just because I haven't deployed doesn't mean I can't shoot." "True," Dalton concedes, "but usually there's more hesitation. You handled that weapon like you've done it a few times." "I follow instructions, sir." The range master was clear. It's a deflection, and they both know it. But Jade offers nothing more. She returns the rifle to the armory, signs the log, and returns to her observation post. The rest of the exercise proceeds without incident, but she can feel Dalton's attention on her, weighing, calculating. Do you think Dalton knows who she really is? Comment your theory, and don't forget to like if you're Team Jade. By late afternoon, Jade receives a notification. There's been a formal complaint filed against her, failure to follow proper chain of command, specifically going to engineering without notifying the training officer first. It's petty, but it's also documented. Another mark against her record. She reads through the complaint in her office, notes the signature at the bottom, Commander Rick Dalton. Then she saves a copy to her personal drive and deletes the notification. Dinner that night is another exercise in isolation. Jade eats alone again, this time at an outdoor table far from the main building. The evening is warm, the sky turning orange and purple as the sun sets behind the distant mountains. She's almost finished when Garrett approaches carrying his own tray. "Mind if I sit?" he asks. "Free country, Senior Chief." He settles onto the bench across from her, unwraps his sandwich. For a while they eat in silence, then Garrett speaks. "I ran into a guy last year," he says conversationally. "Old instructor from Coronado. We got to talking about training evolutions, near misses, the usual war stories. He told me about this one time during a 4-man extraction drill, somewhere overseas, classified location. The drill went sideways, equipment failure, communication breakdown, one of the team members went down hard, should have been a disaster." Jade keeps eating, but her hand stills slightly. "But someone on the team," Garrett continues, "stayed calm, ran the numbers, adjusted the plan on the fly, got everyone out. My buddy said whoever ran that drill knew their stuff. Real operator mindset, not something you learn pushing papers." He takes a bite of his sandwich, chews slowly. Jade sets down her fork. That's a nice story, Senior Chief. What's your point? No point, Garrett shrugs. Just thinking about how weird it is when someone knows things they shouldn't, like range protocols, or how to handle an M4 like they've been doing it for years, or the exact way to spot sabotaged climbing equipment. Maybe I'm a fast learner. Maybe. Garrett finishes his sandwich, stands. Or maybe you're exactly where you're supposed to be, doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. And maybe Commander Dalton should be more careful about who he decides to mess with. He leaves without waiting for a response. Jade sits alone as darkness settles over the base, her food forgotten, her mind turning over calculations and timelines. Garrett suspects. Ward notices. Dalton is escalating. Everything is moving according to plan. She just needs to maintain the fiction a little longer. That night, she returns to her quarters and finds her door unlocked. She didn't leave it that way. Jade enters cautiously, scanning the small room. Nothing appears disturbed, but when she checks her personal belongings, she finds subtle differences. Her notebooks have been moved slightly. Her laptop shows signs of attempted access. Unsuccessful, but the attempt was made. Someone searched her space. She doesn't report it. Instead, she adjusts her bandage, checks the concealed pocket inside her jacket where she keeps documentation, and lies down fully clothed. Her phone buzzes. Another group chat message, this one a meme. An image of a paper airplane with her face photoshopped onto it, captioned, Jade Monroe, Tactical Genius. 83 people have reacted with laughter emojis. Jade screenshots it, saves it to a growing folder of evidence, then sets the phone aside. In the darkness, she counts her breaths. 4 in, 4 hold, 4 out. It's a technique designed for high-stress situations, for moments when control is the only thing standing between success and catastrophic failure. She learned it a long time ago, in circumstances that don't officially exist, from instructors whose names are classified. Morning comes early. Jade is up before dawn, running the perimeter again, maintaining the routine. But today is different. Today, she's scheduled for a mandatory PT test. Push-ups, sit-ups, run time. Standard evaluation for all personnel. She reports to the testing area at 0600, finds Dalton waiting with a clipboard and a stopwatch. "Morning, Lieutenant," he says, all professional courtesy now that witnesses are present. "Ready to show us what you've got?" "Yes, sir." The push-up portion goes first. Jade assumes the position, waits for the command. When it comes, she executes with mechanical precision, back straight, full extension, controlled descent. She completes the required number plus 5, then stops. Good enough to pass, not good enough to raise questions. Sit-ups follow the same pattern. She completes the requirement with minimal extra effort, breathing steadily throughout. Then comes the run, 3 miles, measured course. Jade paces herself, finishes in the middle of the acceptable range. Solid performance, nothing spectacular. Dalton checks his stopwatch, makes a note. "Adequate," he says. "You'll receive your official score within 48 hours. Jade nods, starts to leave. But as she walks past, Dalton adds, "I notice you've got a bandage on your wrist. Old injury?" She stops. "Minor strain, sir. Nothing that affects performance." "Good. Because if you're injured, we'll need documentation. Medical clearance, restricted duty paperwork, the whole process. Wouldn't want you working outside your limitations." It's another trap. If she admits to an injury, she gets pulled from normal duties, isolated further, possibly sent for medical evaluation. If she insists she's fine, he can use any future incident to claim she lied about her condition. "I'm cleared for full duty, sir," she says. "The bandage is precautionary." "If you say so." Dalton smiles. Dismissed. Jade walks away, feeling the weight of his attention. The wrist bandage has become a liability. She'll need to adjust her strategy. The rest of the morning passes in administrative tedium. But at 11:30, she's summoned to the security office. When she arrives, she finds Dalton waiting along with the base security officer, a stern-faced man named Lieutenant Commander Hayes. "Lieutenant Monroe," Hayes begins, "we've received a report of a security violation, specifically unauthorized access to classified training records." Jade's expression doesn't change. "I haven't accessed any classified material, sir." "According to our logs," Hayes continues, pulling up a screen, "your credentials were used yesterday evening at 1947 hours to access restricted files in the training database." "That's impossible, sir. I was in my quarters at that time." "Can anyone verify that?" "No, sir. I was alone." Dalton leans against the wall, arms crossed, watching. Hayes types something, frowns at the screen. The access point shows Building 3, Terminal 7. That's the training office. You weren't there? No, sir. Then someone used your credentials without authorization. That's a serious breach, Lieutenant. You're responsible for safeguarding your access codes. It's a setup. Someone, almost certainly Dalton, used her login to access files, creating a paper trail that implicates her. Jade runs the scenarios. Defending herself requires proving she was elsewhere, which she can't do without surveillance footage. Requesting that footage means accusing Dalton indirectly, which gives him grounds to claim she's paranoid or insubordinate. She chooses the third option, compliance. I understand, sir. I'll change my credentials immediately and submit a security incident report. Hayes seems surprised by her lack of resistance. That's appropriate. Yes, do that. And, Lieutenant, be more careful. Security violations can end careers. Understood, sir. She's dismissed. As she leaves, she hears Dalton's voice, low and satisfied. Told you she was careless. Jade walks directly to the IT office, changes her password, submits the required documentation. Then she returns to her quarters and spends the next hour meticulously documenting every interaction she's had with Dalton since arriving on base. Times, locations, witnesses, exact wording. The file grows substantial. When she's finished, she encrypts it and sends a copy to an external secure server, then deletes the local version. By the time she returns to her office for afternoon duties, word has spread. The security violation story has evolved in the retelling. Now she's being investigated for espionage or selling secrets or incompetence so severe she can't manage basic password security. None of it's true, but truth doesn't matter when reputation is at stake. At 1500 hours, she receives an email. Subject line, Administrative Review Board. The message informs her that due to multiple performance and security concerns, she's being scheduled for a formal review to determine her fitness for continued service at the training facility. The board will convene in 72 hours. If the decision goes against her, she'll be transferred immediately. Jade reads the email 3 times, then closes it. 72 hours. That's how long she has to let Dalton think he's won, to let him get comfortable, to let him make the final mistake that will bring everything crashing down. She spends the rest of the afternoon working with focused intensity, processing paperwork, updating databases, making herself useful in the most mundane ways possible. At 1700 hours, she heads to the motor pool for her scheduled vehicle inspection duty. It's routine work, checking maintenance logs, verifying equipment inventories. She works alone in the far corner of the facility, away from the main activity. That's when Dalton arrives. He doesn't announce himself, just appears in the doorway, backlit by the setting sun. Jade glances up from her clipboard, then returns to her work. "Lieutenant," he says, walking closer, "I wanted to talk to you, off the record." "About what, sir?" "About making this easier on yourself." He stops a few feet away. "The review board is a formality. We both know how it'll go. But it doesn't have to be ugly. You can request the transfer yourself, leave with your dignity intact. I'll even write you a decent recommendation for another post." Jade sets down her clipboard. "Why would you do that, sir?" "Because despite what you might think, I'm not a monster. You're just in the wrong place. This facility needs people who understand operational realities, not regulations and paperwork. That's not an insult. It's recognition that different skills fit different roles. It's almost convincing. The reasonable commander offering a graceful exit." Jade considers her response carefully. "I appreciate that, sir, but I was assigned here for a reason. I'd like to complete my tour." Dalton's expression hardens slightly. "Even if that tour ends with a negative review?" "Even then." He studies her for a long moment, then shakes his head. "Your choice. But you should know. This could follow you. A negative review at a SEAL facility? That's a career ender." "I'll take that risk, sir." Dalton turns to leave, then pauses. "Out of curiosity, what are you really doing here, Lieutenant? Because I don't buy the administrative transfer story. Someone with your profile doesn't end up at a place like this by accident. Maybe you should ask whoever assigned me, sir." "Maybe I will." He walks away, leaving Jade alone among the vehicles and equipment. She waits until his footsteps fade, then pulls out her phone and sends a single encrypted text message. 3 words. Phase 2 initiated. The response comes within seconds. Proceed with caution. Jade deletes both messages, pockets her phone, and returns to her inspection. but her mind is already 3 moves ahead, calculating, planning, waiting for the precise moment when silence becomes revelation and weakness becomes undeniable strength. Evening settles over the base. Jade finishes her duties, heads toward her quarters. But as she walks through the motor pool, she notices Dalton's vehicle parked in the shadows near the maintenance bay. Something about the placement bothers her. It's not where officers typically park, and the angle suggests he didn't want it easily visible. She makes a mental note, continues walking. Tomorrow is when everything changes. Tomorrow, Dalton will push just hard enough, get just close enough, to trigger the reveal he doesn't see coming. And when that moment arrives, when the carefully constructed fiction of Lieutenant Jade Monroe, paper-pushing administrator, finally shatters, the question won't be who she really is. The question will be how many others were part of what she's been investigating all along. The next morning arrives with heavy clouds, the kind that promise rain but never deliver. Jade completes her run in near darkness, returns to her quarters, and finds a printed notice slipped under her door. Mandatory equipment inspection at 0800, motor pool, all personnel assigned to administrative support. She reads it twice, notes the unusual timing. Equipment inspections typically happen during regular duty hours, then dresses and reports as ordered. When she arrives, she finds Dalton waiting with 3 members of his team. No other administrative personnel are present. The setup is immediately suspicious, but Jade maintains her neutral expression, stands at attention. "Lieutenant Monroe," Dalton begins, walking a slow circle around her. "We've had reports of missing equipment. Nothing major, tools, maintenance supplies, the kind of thing that walks off when security gets lax. I need you to open your vehicle for inspection." "I don't have an assigned vehicle, sir. I use the motor pool as needed." "Then we'll inspect the last one you signed out. Number 47, correct?" Jade's mind races. She hasn't signed out vehicle 47 in 3 days. Someone altered the logs, but protesting will accomplish nothing. She nods. "Yes, sir." They walk to the vehicle bay. Dalton produces keys, unlocks the driver's door, begins searching. His team watches with barely concealed anticipation. They're expecting something, which means they planted something. Jade runs scenarios, contraband equipment, falsified documents, anything that would justify immediate disciplinary action. Dalton opens the center console, reaches inside, pulls out a small toolkit. He holds it up. "This is restricted equipment. Serial number indicates it belongs to the Special Operations Maintenance Facility. Want to explain how it ended up in your vehicle?" "I can't explain it, sir. I've never seen that toolkit before." "Right." Dalton's smile is cold. "Because equipment just materializes on its own. Lieutenant, this is theft of government property. I'm placing you on immediate administrative hold pending investigation. You'll surrender your access credentials and return to your quarters under restriction." It's the move Jade has been waiting for, the overreach, the moment when Dalton's need to eliminate her outweighs his caution. She doesn't resist, doesn't argue, just removes her ID card and hands it over. "Understood, sir. Petty Officer Chen will escort you back. You're not to leave your quarters except for medical emergencies. Clear?" "Yes, sir." Chen, a younger SEAL with uncertain eyes, gestures toward the exit. Jade walks ahead of him, maintaining perfect military bearing despite the humiliation of being marched across the base like a prisoner. They pass several groups of personnel, all of whom stop to watch. By the time she reaches her quarters, the story will have spread. Lieutenant Monroe caught stealing, confined to quarters, career over. Inside her room, Chen performs a perfunctory search, finds nothing of interest, then leaves. The door closes. Jade counts to 30, listening for footsteps to fade. Then she moves. First, she retrieves her backup phone from its hiding place inside a gutted manual in her bookshelf. Second, she accesses the encrypted partition and pulls up surveillance footage she's been collecting for the past week. Cameras she positioned during her administrative duties, micro units placed in locations Dalton never thought to check. The motor pool, the training office, the security terminal. The footage from last night shows Dalton entering vehicle 47 at 2200 hours, placing the toolkit in the console, then leaving. Clear premeditation, clear evidence of a setup. But Jade doesn't send it yet. Not until the trap is fully sprung. She has approximately 6 hours before Captain Ward returns from his off-base meeting. 6 hours for Dalton to feel secure in his victory. 6 hours to let arrogance become carelessness. Outside, the base continues its routine. Jade watches through her window as personnel move between buildings, vehicles come and go, helicopters land and depart. She's a ghost now, erased from the facility's daily operations, exactly where Dalton wants her, which means he'll lower his guard. At 1200 hours, her door opens without warning. No knock, no announcement. Dalton enters, alone, closing the door behind him. His expression is professionally concerned, but his eyes hold something else. Triumph. "Lieutenant," he says, settling into the room's single chair, "I thought we should talk. Privately." Jade stands near the window, arms crossed. "About what, sir?" "About your options. The theft charge is serious, court-martial serious. But it doesn't have to go that way. If you resign immediately, cite personal reasons, I can make this disappear. The toolkit gets returned, the paperwork gets lost, you leave with an honorable discharge. And if I don't resign?" Dalton's smile doesn't reach his eyes. "Then I proceed with charges. You'll be fighting this for months, maybe years. Even if you win, which you won't, your reputation is destroyed. No one in the Navy will touch you." It's the same play he's been running, just with higher stakes. Jade measures her response carefully. "I need time to think about it. You have until 1800 hours. After that, I file the official report." He stands, moves toward the door, then pauses. "You know what I don't understand? Why you're fighting so hard to stay somewhere you clearly don't belong. What's really going on, Lieutenant? What are you actually doing here?" Jade meets his eyes. "Maybe I just don't like bullies, sir." Dalton's expression hardens. "Careful. You're already on thin ice." He leaves. Jade waits until his footsteps fade, then checks the time. 4 hours until Ward returns. 4 hours until she can activate the contingency plan. 4 hours to maintain the fiction just a little longer. But at 1400 hours, events accelerate. Her door opens again. This time it's Chen, looking uncomfortable. "Lieutenant, the commander wants you in the motor pool, now." "I'm under restriction." "Orders changed. Come on." Something's wrong. Jade follows Chen across the base, noting the unusual quiet, the way personnel seem to have cleared from certain areas. When they reach the motor pool, she finds Dalton waiting with his full team, 8 men, all in duty uniforms, all watching her with varying degrees of hostility and curiosity. "Lieutenant Monroe," Dalton announces, loud enough for everyone to hear, "I've reviewed the evidence and frankly, things don't add up. You claim you never accessed that vehicle, yet your access card shows multiple entries. You claim you don't recognize the stolen toolkit, yet your fingerprints are on the case. So I'm giving you one more chance to come clean. Tell us what you're really doing here and maybe I can help you." It's theater. Dalton is performing for his team, building a narrative where he's the reasonable authority figure and she's the dishonest outsider. Jade understands the play. More importantly, she understands he's made a critical error. He's gathering witnesses. The more people who see what happens next, the harder it will be for him to control the story afterward. "I have nothing to confess, sir." Dalton's jaw tightens. "Then explain this." He pulls out a tablet, shows her an image, security footage, allegedly from the motor pool, showing a figure in duty uniform entering vehicle 47. The timestamp matches Dalton's claim. But Jade has seen enough surveillance to know this footage is altered. The resolution is wrong. The shadows don't match the ambient lighting. The figure's movements have the slight jerkiness of edited video. "That's not me, sir." "Who else would it be?" "Someone who needed it to be me." The words hang in the air. Several of Dalton's team members exchange glances. Even they recognize the implication, that their commander might be framing someone. Dalton's face flushes. "You're accusing me of falsifying evidence?" "I'm saying that footage doesn't show what you claim it shows." "Based on what expertise? You're an administrator, not a forensic analyst." "I can read a timestamp, sir. That footage claims to be from 2200 hours. But if you look at the vehicle bay lighting in the background, it's clearly daylight. Night operations in the motor pool require auxiliary illumination. That footage doesn't have it." Silence. Dalton stares at the tablet, then at Jade. She's called his bluff in front of 8 witnesses, using basic observational skills that any competent officer should possess. If he backs down, he loses authority. If he doubles down, he risks exposure. He chooses escalation. "I've had enough of this," Dalton snaps. "You think you're clever, finding little inconsistencies, citing regulations, playing word games. But the bottom line is simple. You're a liability, and I'm done tolerating it." He steps closer, invading her personal space, using his physical presence to intimidate. "So here's what's going to happen. You're going to resign. Today. Right now. or I'm going to make your life so miserable that you'll beg for a transfer. Jade doesn't step back, doesn't flinch, just maintains eye contact, breathing steady. 4 seconds in, 4 seconds hold, 4 seconds out. Dalton notices the breathing pattern, something flickering in his expression, recognition maybe, or uncertainty. Who taught you that breathing technique? He asks suddenly. What technique, sir? The 4 count. That's a stress management protocol. SEER training. Where did you learn it? It's the question Jade has been waiting for. The moment when Dalton's curiosity overrides his caution. She could deflect, could claim she read it in a manual, but the time for deflection is past. Same place you did, sir. The atmosphere shifts. Dalton's team members tense, sensing something significant just happened, but not understanding what. Dalton himself goes very still. What did you say? You asked where I learned the 4-count breathing protocol. I learned it the same place you did. Survival, evasion, resistance, escape. Standard curriculum for anyone who operates in denied territory. You've never deployed. My file shows what it needs to show. Dalton reaches out, fast, grabs her left wrist. Then let's see what else you're hiding. He yanks hard, pulling her arm up, intending to strip away the medical tape and bandage to expose whatever she's been concealing. The movement is aggressive, borderline assault, witnessed by 8 SEALs who will later testify about what they saw. Dalton jerks the tape, tearing it away. The bandage comes loose. And there, revealed on Jade's inner forearm, is a tattoo. Not small, not decorative. A black serpent coiled around a silver blade, head raised, fangs visible. Below it, stenciled in precise lettering, SD9. The motor pool goes absolutely silent. Every SEAL in the room recognizes military ink when they see it, understands that unit designators aren't casual choices, but none of them recognize this particular designation. None except Senior Chief Garrett, who has just arrived for a scheduled equipment inspection and now stands frozen in the doorway. Serpent directive, Garrett breathes. Dalton releases Jade's wrist like it burned him. That's not... Those units don't exist? Jade's voice is calm, cold. You're right, Commander. They don't. Not in any official registry, not in any public database, not in any organizational chart you'll ever see, because Serpent Directive was a DoD black budget operation, and every piece of documentation associated with it was either classified beyond clearance or destroyed outright. She rolls her sleeve higher, revealing more of the tattoo. The serpent's coils extend to her shoulder, intricate detail work, professional grade, not something done on a whim. Unit SD9 operated from 2017 to 2020. Primary mission, high-value target elimination in denied territory. Secondary mission, internal security for theater operations. We didn't answer to JSOC. We answered to people who don't have names you'd recognize. Dalton backs up a step. This is nonsense. You're making this up. Am I? Jade pulls out her phone. Not the official one confiscated earlier, but her backup. She unlocks it, navigates to a heavily encrypted folder, turns the screen toward the room. The image shows her 3 years younger, standing in full tactical gear, face partially obscured by a helmet and balaclava. But the serpent tattoo is visible on her exposed forearm, and behind her, sand and distant mountains suggest a deployment environment. Garrett steps fully into the motor pool, his eyes never leaving the tattoo. The Kandahar extraction, 2019. That was you? Jade nods. 3 squads pinned down by hostile fire, 1 with a critically wounded operator, drone surveillance compromised, exfil delayed by 18 hours. Someone had to coordinate the extraction under fire while maintaining operational security. That someone had SD9 clearance. Holy cow, one of Dalton's team members whispers. Garrett walks closer, stops at a respectful distance. We never got a name. Command just said someone with special clearance handled the tactical. Got us out with 0 additional casualties. We tried to find out who put in for a commendation, but all the records were sealed. They're still sealed, Jade says. This conversation is already pushing classification boundaries, but since Commander Dalton seems so interested in who I really am, I figured it was time to clarify a few things. Dalton has regained some composure, though his face remains pale. Even if any of this is true, which I doubt, it doesn't explain why you're here. Serpent Directive disbanded years ago. Why show up at a training facility as a junior administrative officer? Because someone needed to investigate irregularities in training safety protocols, specifically incidents where equipment failures led to fatalities and the subsequent investigations were incomplete or falsified. The words land like physical blows. Dalton's expression cycles through shock, anger, fear. You're accusing. I'm not accusing anyone yet, Commander. I'm investigating. There's a difference. Jade pulls up another file on her phone, this one a spreadsheet with names, dates, incident reports. 2021. Private First Class Michael Torres, training accident, equipment failure during a rope descent, cause of death listed as user error. 2022. Corporal Jennifer Hayes, drowning during water survival training, cause listed as panic-induced exhaustion. 2023. Sergeant Daniel Price, vehicle rollover during convoy simulation, cause listed as operator negligence. She looks up, meeting Dalton's eyes. 3 deaths in 3 years, all ruled accidental, all investigations closed within 72 hours. Except when you actually examine the equipment logs, the maintenance records, the witness statements, inconsistencies appear. Serial numbers that don't match. Inspection signatures from personnel who weren't on duty that day. Witness testimony that contradicts official findings. Those cases were thoroughly investigated, Dalton says, but his voice lacks conviction. They were quickly investigated. There's a difference. Jade advances, and now it's Dalton backing away. So when certain people in Washington noticed a pattern, training facilities where safety incidents consistently got swept under bureaucratic carpets, they decided someone should take a closer look. Someone with operational experience. Someone who could infiltrate as a low-level officer, observe the culture, identify where the breakdowns occur. She stops, letting the implications sink in. Someone like me. Will the whole cover-up crumble, or will someone bury the evidence first? Share this if you believe justice should win, and stay tuned for the conclusion. Garrett finds his voice first. The equipment inspection last week, the rope tower. You weren't being paranoid, you were documenting. Every photo, every measurement, every inconsistency, all logged and transmitted to an oversight committee that Dalton doesn't have the clearance to know exists. One of Dalton's team members, a younger SEAL named Rodriguez, steps forward. Sir, if what she's saying is true, if those investigations were compromised, they weren't, Dalton snaps. She's spinning conspiracy theories, trying to save her career by throwing mud. Then explain the toolkit, Jade says quietly. The one you planted in Vehicle 47 at 2200 hours last night. I have footage from 3 different angles showing you entering that vehicle, placing the toolkit, then leaving. Unedited footage with correct timestamps and lighting conditions. Would you like to review it? Dalton says nothing. The motor pool has become a pressure cooker. 8 SEALs watching their commander, waiting for him to deny or deflect or do something that proves this is all a misunderstanding. But Dalton just stands there, jaw working, hands clenched. Finally, you have no authority here. I have exactly the authority granted by the Inspector General's office and countersigned by the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Special Operations. That's the beauty of Black Budget Operations, Commander. We answer to people you'll never meet, and our authority supersedes yours the moment we invoke it. Jade pulls up one more document, this one an official memorandum with multiple classification markings. This authorizes me to conduct covert investigation of training safety protocols at this facility with full access to all records, personnel, and equipment. It was issued 6 weeks ago. I've been operational here for 8 days. In that time, I've documented 15 safety violations, 4 instances of falsified maintenance logs, and 2 cases of equipment tampering. The toolkit setup was just the most obvious. She turns to address the entire room. And before anyone asks, no, I don't enjoy this. Going undercover, playing weak, letting people mock and humiliate me while I gather evidence, it's degrading. But it's necessary. Because 3 families lost someone they loved and they deserve to know the truth. They deserve to know their son or daughter or spouse didn't die because of personal failure. They died because someone prioritized expediency over safety and then covered it up to protect careers and reputations. Rodriguez speaks again, his voice shaky. Private Torres was my bunkmate in basic. Are you saying his death wasn't his fault? The rope he was using had been flagged for replacement 2 weeks prior. The flag was removed from the system by someone with administrative access. He climbed on compromised equipment, and no one told him. Rodriguez sits down hard on a nearby crate, face in his hands. Around him, the other SEALs are processing, reevaluating everything they thought they knew about the past 3 years. Garrett addresses Jade directly. How bad is it? The total scope? Bad enough that fixing it requires more than disciplinary action. The safety culture here has degraded to the point where shortcuts are normalized, where raising concerns gets you labeled paranoid or weak. That culture came from somewhere. Someone set that tone. Every eye turns to Dalton. He's backed against a vehicle now, nowhere left to retreat. I want a lawyer. That's your right, Jade acknowledges. Captain Ward will arrive within the hour. He's been briefed on this investigation and will coordinate with the Inspector General's office. Until then, you're ordered to remain in the motor pool under the supervision of Senior Chief Garrett. I'm still the training officer. I don't take orders from you. You stopped being the training officer the moment you assaulted a commissioned officer conducting a sanctioned investigation. That's court-martial territory, Commander. And unlike the equipment charges you tried to fabricate, these charges will stick. Garrett steps between them, addressing his commander. Sir, with respect, you should stop talking. Anything you say now is making this worse. Dalton opens his mouth, closes it. The fight drains from his posture. He's calculating. Jade can see it, trying to figure out how much evidence exists, how many people know, whether there's any way to spin this favorably. But the math doesn't work. Too many witnesses, too much documentation, too much time for Jade to have built an airtight case. At 1500 hours, Captain Ward arrives. He's not alone. Accompanying him is a woman in civilian clothes carrying a briefcase marked with official DoD seals. She introduces herself as Inspector General Hartley, and her presence transforms the motor pool into an official investigation site. Within minutes, more personnel arrive: military police, legal officers, a forensic team to examine the vehicle and toolkit. Ward pulls Jade aside while the organized chaos unfolds around them. You could have told me. Couldn't risk it, sir. Part of the protocol was ensuring no one at facility level knew the investigation was happening. Had to eliminate the possibility of interference or warning. Still, you went through hell this past week. That was the point. I needed to see how the system responds when someone raises legitimate concerns. Turns out it responds by attacking the person raising them. That's useful data. Ward studies her face. The breathing technique. That's what tipped Dalton off? Eventually. But by then I had everything I needed. Sometimes the best way to catch someone is to let them think they've already won. Serpent Directive. Ward says the words carefully. I've heard rumors. Black operations, highest classification. They say those units did things that can never be acknowledged. Some rumors are true, Jade replies. Some aren't. The tattoo is real. The unit designation is real. Everything else is need to know, and respectfully, sir, you don't need to know. Ward accepts this with a nod. Fair enough. What happens now? Now the IG conducts a full audit. Every training incident in the past 5 years gets reopened. Every piece of equipment gets inspected. Every maintenance log gets verified. It'll take months. And Dalton? That depends on what the investigation finds. If he actively falsified reports or covered up safety violations that led to deaths, he's looking at manslaughter charges. If he was just negligent, maybe he gets administrative punishment and a dishonorable discharge. Either way, his career is over. What about you? Where do you go from here? Jade glances at the organized chaos, the personnel executing their duties with grim efficiency. Wherever the next investigation takes me. Serpent Directive might be officially disbanded, but the mission continues. Just under different names, different classifications. That sounds lonely. It's necessary. By 1700 hours, Dalton has been formally relieved of command and escorted to a secure holding facility pending charges. His team has been interviewed separately, their statements recorded, their own roles in the safety failures assessed. Most of them, it turns out, had no knowledge of the cover-ups. They trusted their commander, followed orders, assumed the system was working as designed. Rodriguez approaches Jade as the motor pool finally empties. I need to know. Private Torres, did he suffer? Jade considers lying, offering comfort. But these men deserve truth. The fall was 60 feet. Medical examiner's report says the injuries were catastrophic. He was likely unconscious immediately. Rodriguez nods slowly. His parents were told it was his fault, that he didn't follow safety protocols. His parents will receive a corrected report within 30 days. They'll be informed that the equipment was compromised and that their son followed every protocol correctly. He died doing his duty, not because of negligence. Thank you, Rodriguez says quietly, for finding out, for giving him that back. He leaves. Jade stands alone in the motor pool, exhausted in ways that have nothing to do with physical exertion. Going undercover always extracts a toll. The constant vigilance, the performance, the isolation. But knowing that 3 families will finally have answers makes the cost bearable. Garrett returns at 1800 hours carrying 2 cups of coffee. He hands one to Jade. Figured you could use this. Appreciate it, Senior Chief. They stand in silence, watching the sun set behind the distant mountains. Finally, Garrett speaks. That first night, at dinner, you were already documenting every interaction, every safety violation, every time someone chose convenience over protocol. And the boot cleaning thing, that wasn't humiliation, that was evidence of a toxic command climate where bullying is tolerated as long as it doesn't leave visible marks. Yes, Garrett sips his coffee. You know what's going to happen now. Word spreads. Every other training facility in the Navy will tighten protocols, start triple-checking everything, because they'll know someone might be watching. That's the idea. It's also going to make your job harder. Next time you go undercover, people will be more careful. Then I'll adapt, Jade says. That's what operators do. Inside her temporary quarters that night, Jade finally removes the remnants of tape and bandaging from her wrist, exposing the full tattoo to open air for the first time in days. The serpent's scales are rendered in intricate detail, each one a reminder of missions that officially never happened, of decisions made in circumstances that remain classified. She traces the outline with one finger, remembering. Her phone buzzes. Encrypted message from a number with no contact name. Directive SD-10 active. Brief at 0800, location classified. Tower sends regards. Jade reads the message 3 times, then deletes it. Serpent directive never really ended. It just evolved, operating further in the shadows, handling problems that can't be solved through official channels. Another facility, another investigation, another week or month or year of pretending to be someone she's not. But first, there's unfinished business here. The next morning at 0800, Jade stands before a formation of the entire SEAL training detachment. Beside her are Captain Ward, Inspector General Hartley, and the base commander. The official announcement is brief and carefully worded. Commander Dalton has been relieved pending investigation, temporary leadership has been assigned, all training operations will continue under enhanced safety protocols. Then Ward introduces Jade properly. Not as the administrative lieutenant everyone mocked, but as a special investigator operating under IG authority, authorized to conduct covert safety audits. The reaction ripples through the formation. Shock, embarrassment, anger directed inward at how they treated her. After the formation, several personnel approach to apologize. Jade accepts their words with professional courtesy, but doesn't pretend the past week didn't happen. The humiliation was real, even if her identity was false. Some lessons are learned through discomfort. One younger SEAL, barely 22, stops her near the edge of the dispersing formation. His name tape reads Chen, the same one who escorted her under restriction yesterday. Ma'am, I need to say I'm sorry. When the commander ordered me to walk you back to quarters, I thought... He stops, struggling with the words. I thought you were actually guilty. I should have questioned it. You followed orders, Jade replies evenly. That's what you're trained to do. The failure wasn't yours. But if I'd looked closer, if I'd asked, then you might have compromised the investigation, she interrupts gently. Sometimes the hardest part of fixing a broken system is letting it break completely first, so everyone can see the cracks.